Welcome everybody. If you don't know me, my name is Eddie. I'm the pastor of this church. I welcome you from the bottom of my heart to this worship service. And you come to us at a very unique series. And that series talks about how we live our faith in the workplace. My wife Laura, she kicked us off 2 weeks ago, just talking about how God sees work, what the Bible says about work, the theology of work. She did a great setup for us. Last week, I talked about how to grow in your leadership, leading yourself and others, how to do that with skill. And if you're interested in that, the link will be out there shortly on YouTube and you can listen to that. And today, we don't have a preacher or a sermon. Today, we have a panel and we'll be led by Stephen. He will introduce it in a moment. And then there will be two wonderful people sharing from their experience and how they live faith at work. But I'm here to just invite you to open up your hearts to what God says about you and the place where you are in right now. You can just check out right now, sitting there, right? Worship is over. We had a couple of laughs. You know, you're updated about the church, and you could just check out. You could go on your phone, or you could be really engaged and listen. And I invite you to do that because I think God has something prepared for you. Please give a hand for Stephen, who is going to introduce the panel and also lead it.
There's the chairs, yeah. Thank you, Eddie. And thank you, Chiman and Rehan, for working out your marriage issues in front of us on stage. Yeah, today, so we've talked a little bit about how God sees work. And sometimes I think, we kind of have a weekday self and a weekday self, right? We kind of have like a weekday or weekend person who's working on their relationship to God, going to church, working on your relationship to friends, working on your relationship to sleep on the weekends, right? And then you have like a work day self who's working on your career and getting stuff done and everything, right? And it's definitely not biblical, right? The Bible's fairly clear about this. Yeah, there's this verse in 1 Timothy 5:8 where it talks about how important it is to work and to provide for yourself. And then today we're going to talk about the vice versa, as well as how important it is, your faith, and how that you bring that into your career, into your work. And I'm not going to do this just myself. I'm going to bring a couple people up. But before we do that, just want to ask by a show of hands, who works in an office here? Okay, about half. Who has a career outside of an office? Cool. Whose office is their living room at home? Yeah, a few of us. Cool. So, so I think this will apply for everyone, even if you don't work in an office. You know, you can bring this to wherever you work, whatever it is. I think it'll be broad because we have the people we're bringing up also have a little more of a diverse background. So without further ado, I'd like to bring up somebody who's managed to get half the church in a Marvel film more than once, and who also is the receiver of eye rolls from his wife, Anna, all the time. I'd like to bring up Philip onto the stage. So come up, let's give him a hand, Philip. And then, yeah. Can we get him a mic? And then she's already been picked on by and mobbed by Rehan already. I'll bring up Bryony, but she's still smiling. I've never seen this girl frown. I don't know if she's capable of it. But let's bring up Bryony also. Welcome her up to the stage. So, yeah, feel free to take a seat, guys. We'll sit. Yeah. So, how are you? How are you guys? Good, yeah? Yeah, so I'll start with you, Philip. So I know most of us know you, or a lot of us know you, but not everybody. Can you just give us like a brief little background of what you studied and what you work in? Yeah.
Do I need a mic, or is my natural mic good enough? Okay. Yeah, hi. Philip Alexander. I'm from India. I grew up in Delhi. Did high schooling in computer science. That's physics, chemistry, maths, computers. Did undergrad university in political science and international economics, which is probably as far from computer science as East is from the West. Did a business school in what they call here an MBA. In marketing, I hated finance because my professor sucked. And somehow I started working in a telecom firm, a telecom startup, started in sales, moved into managing sales, moved into marketing, moved into product development, moved into business development. Then I moved into mergers and acquisitions, which meant I had to deal with finance. Moved from there into a consulting firm, ran a consulting business, moved to another consulting firm here in Germany because I met my wife Anna, and running a consulting business around AI and digital transformation.
Wow. Okay.
Which basically means, I would turn around and say, if you look at my entire career journey, none of them connects to the previous one. Right? So, lesson for all of us here. Don't let your previous stop or your previous education stop you from what your next step is. Yeah. The most important thing is to keep learning on the job, on the run, and to be adaptable.
Yeah. Thank you, Phil. And Brian, I think you also, what you're doing now is quite a bit different from what you came from, right?
Yeah, I can relate to that. So I'm from England, and I studied psychology in a city called Sheffield. Then I worked for church for a year in Sheffield. Then I moved over here, worked for church here, as well as in Rayhan's business, Lincoln Learn, like a children community centre. And then now I'm working for a consulting business as well. So very different areas.
And what's the biggest difference between working for a company or corporate and church, would you say?
For some reason, I kind of struggled a little bit over this question. I think that the biggest difference is just the atmosphere of faith. Like when I go into church now, I don't sit and pray with everybody before we start our meetings. There's different standards, I guess, in the way we do things, and that's something I miss. I think about work now, but I think that there are also some similarities as well. And I think working for church was also not super easy sometimes, and sometimes was really difficult, as in the workplace. And I think for some people, this perception of working in church is like, we sit and pray together and it's really nice, and there's like rainbows and unicorns and I don't know, all these fun things, which is sometimes it's really nice. It is really nice sometimes. But then, it's also work, and you're doing things, and there's a different onus, I think, when you're working when it's to do with people's faith and spirituality. There's a different kind of purpose behind what you're doing. And in work now, that's not necessarily where I'm working in. But I think that would be the main difference for me. Actually, there's this atmosphere of faith and, just the attitude that people have. And there's this different standard, I think, what Christians set and what the rest of the world sets, which varies.
Okay. And Philip, you've worked in India, right? And here? Where else? Any other countries?
Well, a lot of traveling around the world on work, but base has always been India or Germany.
And how is it working in Germany compared to India?
Corporate world is corporate world. Cultural aspects are different. So there are pros and cons with every culture. Right? And even within a culture, different people act differently. So I would turn and say one of the important things is, I like structure. I like to have a certain approach in a certain direction, but I also think it's very important to be adaptable to a changing environment, and the world is so changing right now. Yeah. If we can't adapt, we're Jurassic Park. We're obsolete.
And I think for you, because you come from a country where it doesn't have the Christian roots, right? So Europe, doesn't matter how many are today, I think there's that background with the values. And I think India's different, right? More of a Hindu type background.
Actually, parts of India were Christian before Europe became Christian. So Kerala, where my grandparents come from, tradition says that Doubting Thomas, as we all know him, started the church there in 52 AD. So parts of India, there were presence of Christians way before Europe got Christianity.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're still a minority in India, 4%. I mean, I know 4% of 1.5 billion is 60 million, but it's still, so that's a good sized minority, but it's still a minority, 4%.
And both of you, how is it balancing now, the faith life and, thank you, and, work? And how do you balance that from I'd say, a schedule point of view? Or how's that work? Why don't you go ahead, Bryony? Yeah.
Okay. I would say I wouldn't describe it as a balance, actually. I would say that if we're really living out our faith is intertwined in everything we do. And when we're at work, if we've completely cut off our faith, then we're not involving God in everything that we're doing. And he calls us to involve him in every single area of our lives. And so when I'm at work, I'm also talking to God. I'm also living out my faith in my workplace. And of course, it looks different to church. I'm not worshiping with other people. I'm not sitting up here and talking about faith and work, but it's intertwined completely. And I would say if we feel we need to find a balance, then maybe we're looking at it slightly the wrong way. That it should be, okay, God, how can I bring you more into my work today? How can I have a better attitude? How can I live out my faith through my workplace, live out my faith with my colleagues, whichever place it is that you work. This is for everybody, and that's what we're called to do. We're called to be a light wherever we are, and that's also in our workplace. And maybe it's that we need that more than here. Everyone here is Christian, and it's great that we get to gather together and do this together, but we're called to live out of it as well, and to not just, like you said, be this Christian person on the weekends, and then in our workplace we're getting really annoyed at our colleagues and shouting at people, or not being honest in the way we're dealing with our work. And that's all about allowing God to come into our workplace in the way we're doing things.
Anything to add?
No, I would just completely concur with her on this. Brilliant approach. Right. So, yeah, I would just say it's exactly like you said. It's not that we're Christians only on a Sunday and the rest of the 6 days we're not Christians. Right? We're called to walk with God every step of our path. There's so many times in office I turn and say, God, give me guidance, give me wisdom. Right? Especially as when you and I, we work in the same space.
Yeah.
It can be pretty frustrating at times, and we need a lot of grace to live out in grace and yet wisdom.
Yeah. Maybe along that lines, do your colleagues know about your faith, or that your church on every Sunday? Do they know?
Most of my colleagues do. I actually entered the job I'm in now through Yanis. And so there's the question of, okay, how do you know Yanis? I know him through church. So that was, in a way, kind of helpful that people at the beginning, they just knew. There's also a couple of other Christians who work in my company as well. And I think it was just a great way. Yeah, it was just quite easy from early on, I would say, that people just knew and would ask, and oh, that's cool. Most people knew Yanis was a Christian and is a Christian, hopefully. That's me.
Yeah, for me, most of my colleagues just know me as me, right? So to some of them who cross the line into deeper friendship with me, they know that Anna and I come to church on Sundays. They've actually met quite some of you for our weekly get-togethers, right? And they ask a lot of you guys, how do you guys know Philip? And you guys respond and say church, and that's fine, right? So they know we are Christians. I don't shove the Bible down the throat, but I try to sort of figure out where do we meet them at their point of need, or at their point of their journey to find Christ.
Yeah,
that's sort of been my approach, that we live out God's character, we live out his values, his ethos, his ethics. That's one way of shining. Another way of shining is verbally sharing, or maybe when a colleague of mine has a health issue in the family, I offer to pray with them, right? So there's no one size fits all or one approach that fits everyone. I try different points of meeting people at their point of need or their point of journey with God or journey towards God. I don't know, is that the answer you're looking for?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I wonder if there's ever any tension there, because I had where I used to work, one of the guys I worked for was a very clear atheist. He just was kind of a proud atheist, right? So I was always telling people, oh, what do you do on a weekend? I was in church, so they knew. But then with him, I mean, we had a very good working relationship, but there were sometimes he would say things, like just saying, say something negative about Christians or people with faith, and very derogatory, for example. And everybody would laugh, but you'd be sitting there. It's kind of the opposite, right? You'd say, oh, maybe a Christian says something that would offend somebody, but it was the other way around. So I just remember there being a little bit of a tension, me working for him, knowing, okay, I'm in church leadership actually, and this is a known atheist who doesn't mind spreading it around the company that this is a belief. So I remember that tension. I don't know if you guys have experienced anything like that.
Yeah, I mean, not just here in Germany, but even in India, where a lot of my colleagues were Hindus or Muslims or Sikhs or different religions, right? I mean, I remember growing up in Delhi, I was the only Christian in my entire batch of 200 kids, all my 12 years of schooling, right? But, I mean, now that I'm a believer, for me, it's just a matter of, hey, we can break the concept of what they have in their mind of what Christians are, or who Christians are. When we have a friendship and a relationship with them, then they don't get derogatory, right? Why? Because they have a friendship and a relationship with us. It's usually they usually are like that when they don't know us. People are always afraid of something they don't understand or they don't know, right? And they have their own biases towards that. It's an opportunity for us to break these biases through our friendship and relationship with them. That's the way I take it.
So you're not there preaching to them, but you're just getting to know them, and then when there's an opportunity to talk about it, you then do it. And
I mean, absolutely, because you can't preach to them. That's why I said we have to sort of meet them at their point of need or the point of where they are in their journey towards God. And we have to sort of be a little sensitive towards that. It's different where if you are in a wider group and you are preaching to 20 or 200 people out there versus when you're doing one-on-one with people. We wouldn't shove the Bible down our friends' throats or our neighbors' throats. It's the same approach.
Yeah. Bridie, for you?
For me, I'd say I've been quite lucky in that I haven't received that so much, I would say I have heard a couple of, my work environment's German speaking as well, so I don't understand everything. So maybe it's happening, I don't know, it's going over my head. Who knows? But I would say that, my colleagues, I'd say same as Philip actually. I talk to them about it sometimes there's questions or, not just in the workplace, but also in other areas of my life. And I think sometimes as Christians, we can get a little weird about it sometimes, like talking about church and stuff. And I kind of think of it like, I don't know, if you're asking someone to go to church or to a hangout where, friends from different circles are there, church friends, work friends, whatever. I think as Christians, sometimes we can build it up in our heads. And because for us, there's such an importance in our faith is the biggest part of our lives. And when you want to share that to someone, it can feel quite nerve-wracking and, and there's this build-up of stuff. But then I think we don't, when we're asking somebody, oh, would you like to come along to this? Or who's going to be there? Some of my friends from church, this person. Just don't overthink it, I think. Just when you have that relationship with somebody, they're just interested in what you're doing and where you're going, and they want to hang out with you because you're a cool person or because they like to be with you, And it's like when you ask someone to go to the cinema or something, you don't have this huge oh, shall I ask them? Will they like watching Marvel film or whatever? I don't know. You just ask them, are you free at this time? We're going to do this. I thought would you like to come along? And it's like, oh yeah, sure. And I think people are more open to it than we suspect. I think when we overthink it and then we deliver it in this kind of weird way, oh, I'm going to church and it's got this and it's got this, but it's got this. Oh, maybe you won't like this. it's just a strange invitation. And so when we're talking to people, I think Christianity is just part of our life. It's normal and it's the way we're living. And when we're talking to people about our faith, it shouldn't really be this huge preach. It should just be us having a conversation. And if they want to know you and get to know you and have that conversation with you, that will come up. That's part of your life. And if they don't like it, then they don't like it. That's okay. It's not on us to drum it into everybody, but that's just part of building our relationship with somebody. Just normal conversations in our workplace as well. And if people are laughing about it and stuff at work, then it probably means that they don't understand it and they're trying to poke and see, what you do or what will happen. And just being steadfast in our faith is difficult sometimes, but that's, the best thing that we can do. And the best way to deal with that, I think.
And if I can add on, at least me and my colleagues and friends, we have a lot of really deep discussions on lots of topics. It's got everything to do with life. It's got everything to do with war, situations that's happening, people's personal challenges, all that stuff. And these are all opportunities where we can bring in the light of God, the character of God into how we respond or how we would respond to that situation. And they really turn and say, really? You would do that? Right? And then it gives you the opportunity to open up as to what is the foundation for your rationalization or your talking on that subject or the foundation of your decision making, right? And that gives the opportunity to turn and say, hey, if I have been forgiven or if I have been shown grace or if I've been called to live by a certain ethical standard, right? That is the foundation of how I'm trying to respond in a way. And even if I fail at that, I know I can always go back to God and ask for forgiveness without lowering the standard.
So I think you both mentioned a little bit, touched on, it's not just like talking about it and people know I'm Christian and not, it's also the way you react to things, right? And the way, how people perceive you in the workplace, right? And have you seen like differences between how you handle things, how you approach things, compared to other people because of your faith? How would you say that influences you?
You want to go first or shall I?
Okay. I would say there is a difference. I would say that, firstly, I try to be fluid in all areas of my life. Meaning, I'm the same person in church as I am in work, as I am in my German course, as I am in XYZ. And if I'm changing that or shifting that to try and be somebody different or to show something else, then I'm not truly being me. And I think it's really important to do that because people also pick up on it. There's something not quite right with this person when they're only trying to be something else. And it's not really showing who God has created me to be. And everybody has something that they're bringing as well. And to just show myself and, try and have this positive attitude when other people might not, and try to talk to that person who, I don't know, maybe doesn't know so many people in the company, or try to do these things that try and just live out how God wants me to live out in the workplace. I think just being fluid and trying to be something or somebody is the best thing, really. Like, God has created me to be me, and He's put me where I am for a reason, and He's not put me there to just try to be like this person. He's put me there to be me, and because I can give something, and because, I'm valued in this position. And that's the same for everybody as well. Like, where we are right now is where God has put us, and it might not be an easy place to work, or your colleagues might be difficult, or you might just not be enjoying it so much, or you've been doing it for years and you're getting bored of it. But that's where God's put us, and we should be faithful to where God has put us and make the most of it as well. Like, use the lunch times to connect with your colleagues. When you are talking to somebody, just take the extra time when you see them to say, hi, how are you? Like, how's your day going? Do you want a coffee? I'm going to go and grab one. These small things that really make a difference to people. And when people see that, they see something different about you. And I also have some great colleagues that also do that and are not Christian, but it creates this place as well where people maybe notice something different. And, you know, people have asked me before, only a couple of times, but, you know, things like, oh, like, what happens in your church? Oh, I was actually looking on YouTube and I saw, you know, this preach, like, and just talking. And it's just really, it's a really good way to connect with people about that as well, because they see you're just being you and, you know, there's nothing fake or trying to be something. You're just being you.
Yeah. I have a maybe slightly different flavor on that. I come from the perspective and the approach. I'm not saying it's perfect, right? But I come from the perspective and approach of saying my 8-9 hours in office is work time, right? Which means I expect excellence from myself and I expect excellence from my colleagues around me. And it's about how to try to inspire people to excellence. So if you ask me, do I pray 8 hours a day when I'm in office? No, I don't. Yeah. Right? Hit the ground running, thinking about work, right? But every now and then, you know, reach out to God and ask for guidance and wisdom, right? And courage on how to deal with tough situations or topics. But at the same time, it's also about during the work, how do we react to our colleagues and how do we inspire them? And how do we try to instill a culture of excellence, right? And it's not demanding it, it is inspiring them. And also part of that inspiration is hopefully role modeling it for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something I've seen too, is because I'm in a manager level, like middle management, and the leadership part of the job that we need to do. I think I've learned so much through faith and church and doing things like this in church, but also just the way God approaches it. And, you know, you realize church is all about people. Well, your company is all about people too, right? And we get focused on the task sometimes and forget that. But I've had to learn the spirit of excellence, because I, for example, lead a team where I've got 4 out of 5 people are amazing, but one of them is not, yeah? And just having to grace and going to, you know, and I've so many times gone, God, I don't know how to handle this. Like, I don't know. Like, you talk to HR, nobody seems to have a solution. But the one person who's helped me more is just going to God and praying, and just the revelation that sometimes that happens, and just over time. And then really, you know, realizing actually you get to, I got a breakthrough and realize actually it's not healthy for this person or me having him in a team, but it's also not healthy for this person. And so, like, you know, that grace to have, I think, is really, without faith, I don't think I would have had. I would have said, fire the person, get rid of them. Yeah, that made it my inclination, but different approach. So.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Stephen, you hit the nail on the head on some of the struggles, because I think all of us who work in any kind of working environment, we will face those struggles. And my entire perspective, and again, this is my perspective, so this is not necessarily the gospel truth, right? But work has got a different set of stakeholders, and it's got a different set of expectations, right? Work is not church. In church, we can have a lot more grace, and church means personal lives. We can have a lot more grace towards people who are struggling to turn around and say, hey, I'm okay to spend 9 months or invest 9 months or 12 months or 18 months into your life. But in a corporate world, I don't know if I can spend 18 months for somebody to come up to speed, right? I always say we have the right people, and either the right person is in the right role, or the right person has got the right capabilities to grow into the right role soon enough, or the right person is in the wrong role. And we rather find a right role for that person than ruin an entire business and an entire team because we got the right person in the wrong role. So it's not necessarily a one-size-fits-all, at least from my perspective. And we have to take each situation as it comes. So the question is, what are the values of the firm? Is the firm okay to invest 9 months to 12 months to 18 months to grow people into a right role, right? Even if they are underperforming for those 18 months. Or is the firm's values, hey, I'm sorry, you get a 6 to 12 month time to prove yourself. And if not, we've got to find the right role for you, even if it's outside the firm. So it's not the easiest thing. In our personal lives, I can extend that grace a lot more to invest into somebody's life. I don't know whether I can do that in the corporate world. It depends on each individual organization and their values and culture.
Yeah, I mean, I think a little different, like you say in that role, but maybe there's more, I mean, it's not that you don't turn your back on the person, but you say for this role, maybe different. But I think sometimes translates into faith life, because sometimes in church life you see people trying to do things that's not really meant for them, right? And there's another discussion, but I mean, I think, you know, like, I'm going to be on the worship band, I'm going to sing. And then they get on stage and like, maybe hospitality, you know, just say like, and it's like this in the corporate world, right? Like,
I completely agree with you. I mean, if, for example, if I came up here onto worship, nobody would come back next Sunday, right? So I always say, whose kingdom are we building? Are we building our own kingdom or God's kingdom?
Yep. And I remember I worked with a colleague and the company I work now, and there was something different about this person. And I just knew it, you know, like, okay, I don't know if other people realize it, but I knew it. When he told me that eventually he's like a born again, I said I knew it. Just the way you reacted to people and reacted to things. And there's also calmness to him, and I think that's something I've seen, that faith has helped me stay somehow calmer too, because I work in a company where it's fairly dynamic, you know, like you said, the industry, we're in automotive industry related stuff is so dynamic at the moment. There's a lot going on there. You could lose sleep every night on the stuff going on. And there's just this peace there, you know, and I felt it in this person. I think that's something too that helps us, having that grounded in that faith, that whatever happens out there, you could lose your job tomorrow, right? But you're not, I think there's a different worry about it and different way to react. And that sense, you know, and for me, I find it a little bit hard maintaining a sense of urgency that the company has, trying to keep the company goals, where you realize, yeah, this isn't the ultimate goal, right? Like the bigger perspective. And that's always been a little bit of tension for me, like God, like knowing what God may have, like this may not be what God's goals even are for this company, right? And what people think, and seeing sometimes there may be a tension there, and for myself too. But on the long term, just that perspective that I have through the faith, I think has really helped me. And transitioning into this a little bit, maybe Abby can come up and play a little bit in keys. Have you seen God directly intervene at work? Like, you ever seen him tell something to you or do something that just kind of helped you or changed something, changed the atmosphere? Have you ever seen like kind of more of a direct intervention at your workplace?
I wouldn't. Well, yeah, I've seen God intervene. I would say, not necessarily in a dramatic way or something, but I've seen God, like for me, when there's been lots going on, or I found things really difficult because things are in German, or different challenges like that. I've found a peace that's come through God, like you were describing, and maybe I shouldn't. Some of my passwords are like Bible verses as well, and so I mean the Bible's big; it would take you a long time to hack me. But things like that I've put in because I want to remind myself. Like when I first go into my computer, I log in. There's that verse there. And it reminds me, and it strengthens me, and it's just a little thing, and it takes like 2 minutes to type in, but it's something in my day, and things like that I've put through when I found things really difficult, just saying, God, please help me with this, I don't understand, or please help me, little things, like if I'm talking to a colleague in German, like, Lord, please help me understand and to build a relationship with this person. Lord, please help me to do this and to have wisdom in this situation, or know how to talk to that person about this thing that didn't quite go as it should have gone. And God has been faithful through all those encounters and has helped grow those relationships with people. And it's those little bits that you purposely put in or try to have when you're talking to God, or just, I don't know, thinking over his word, praying over his word throughout the day when you're at work or studying or whatever it is. Those are the things that make a difference, and it's involving God in those details. And so I would say, maybe not like a traumatic thing, but through those things, I've seen God work inside of me and help me progress in my career, in my attitude, and in who I am in my workplace, but also then to help me to be a better light for him and to kind of show people as best as I can who God is. And hopefully those things have made a difference. I think that they have, and because it's God, you know, it's, yeah, you can't, he's there, he's present through our lives, and being that person where we are it makes such a difference to people. And even if we don't immediately see it, or someone doesn't actively say something, just the way that we are in the presence that we bring as children of God, it makes a difference in our workplace. And yeah, that's who we are. That's who we're called to be.
Yeah, mine's on a slightly different tangent on that. So let me share an example about the cost of living according to God's character. 2015, I was with another consulting firm based out of Bombay at that time. It was a global consulting firm. And the India business was doing something unethical against the global business. And it was sort of overlapping with my area of business, and I found out about it. And since I was working every week with our global leadership, I turned and told them, this is exactly what's happening. You guys need to turn around, do an investigation. If not, you guys are going to get badly hit. Right? It could be a huge reputational loss for the global firm. So they did a investigation. They found out what I was saying was true, and they smacked the India leadership and turned around and fixed that entire thing. But somewhere around the entire journey, one of the global leaderships sort of forwarded a email with the email trail at the very bottom, me reaching out to the global leadership, turning around and saying, this is exactly what's happening. So the India leadership found out that it was me who went and shared about this entire thing with them, right? And they basically tried to fire me. The global leadership protected me for a year while trying to get me into an alternate role in an alternate country. The India leadership blocked that twice, right? And finally let go of me. They like on the spot let go of me. And this was like 7 months before Anna and I got married, and we'd already applied to the German government for getting married and all this stuff. And suddenly here I am, about to get married, out of a job, in a totally different country from my future wife, right? And if you guys know Germany, you don't get a visa out here without a job. Those days. Now maybe you do. Those days you didn't, right?
Yeah.
And we already fixed the wedding. We had called 100+ people around the world. And in fact, I even told Anna, hey, listen, you know, if I'm not there for the wedding, just walk down the aisle with an iPad laptop, right? And I will be on the other end of it, right? So, I mean, I know it sounds funny, but yeah, that was the entire thing. But I did what I felt was right, according to God's character. And it cost me, right? It cost me. And then 7 months later, the miracle of God was the way he got me into my current consulting firm. The day that I got fired, I met up with one of my best friends, right? And he introduced me that very same night to the global head of my consulting firm. And that started the process. And 7 months later, it took 7 months because of the German bureaucracy and the Betriebsrat and everything else, right? But that entire process was just a miracle. And I would just stand up and say, I mean, the lesson is not to stand up for God's values and character because you're going to get a miracle at the end of it. The lesson is to stand up for God's character and values because that's what he calls us to do, right? Because that's the foundation of our life. And at the end of the day, a miracle may happen, a miracle may not happen. We accept what God brings into our life. That's my learning from Job.
Yeah. And if you need it, if there's anything that you ever need God's help with, it's definitely German bureaucracy, right? Like it's a...
On that part, I actually have one slide which I wanted to just share with the entire church. I mean, all of you guys know I'm a movie buff, right? And I keep turning around and saying one picture or one video conveys 10,000 words. So if the team at the back can send this out, right? This is one of my all-time favorite movies, right? And man, there are so many sayings in this that are so impactful for life in general, right? But this is where when Robert D. Bruce is telling William Wallace, you know, we need the nobles, don't alienate the nobles. And Wallace turns and says, Nobles, what are they? They bleed red just like you and me. People don't follow titles, they follow courage. And I think God calls all of us to be leaders in our walks of life. He calls us to be followers and leaders, right? You don't need a title to guide people, to lead people, to walk alongside people, to be a servant leader. You don't need titles. We need courage. Sorry, that's movie buff and me.
It's great, great. And I'll just share a similar story for me. I was, the company I used to work for before, we'd done another round of layoffs, and I wasn't affected, but I was getting a little nervous because I knew, you know, like I was kind of called for people leadership type role in the corporate world, and I had, you know, I was applied externally. I had a couple offers on the table, great offers, but I didn't have a peace about it. And then I was just one day I'm driving to work and just praying, and I heard God just say, "Do you not trust the plan I have for you?" So I said, "Okay, I trust you." I'm saying no to everything, and I'm just waiting, and I did. And then half a year later, one opportunity happened, took it, got it, and a year and a half later, I'm now got the role. I am now leading a team, and I just, when I got it and had the interviews, I just I knew this is what He had. So I want to share a verse with you. It says Psalms 90:17 says, "May the favor of the Lord our God rest on us. Establish the work of our hands for us. Yes, establish the work of our hands." I just want to leave that. Like, I think you hear the testimony here of these two, and a couple of things I've shared, but God is there to help you in your corporate work too. Yeah, we'll be faithful to Him there. Yeah, you hear it here. You don't need to be shy about who you are. We're not bashing people over the head. The fact we're Christians, we're not preaching to them, but I when I first started walking more intensely with God, I was kind of nervous about sharing that with people at work. And later on, I just realized I shared it naturally. Like, yeah, I go to church on Sundays. Yeah, I'm in leadership. Yeah, I used to live in Darmstadt. How'd you do that? Well, I went there to lead a church. Yeah, and everybody kind of looks at you, and I've never seen any negative about it, but maybe there is. But the positives, and it's being faithful to Him, and He will be faithful to you. Trust Him, pray to Him. Yeah, whatever works for you, and just keep on this journey. And I wanted to leave that with you. And yeah, thank you for listening. And let's give it up for these two for sharing all that. Thank you.
And if you want to dig deeper into the subjects, just catch the three of us after church. We have lots of stories and experience to share.
Yeah, and I'll hand over now to Eddie to let him close for us.
That was very close to reality. And I was just really inspired by the three of these people sharing not just of theory, right, and what belief is there, but from practice. And I believe we all need the practical side of things. We have a lot of theory, a lot of conviction, but then when push comes to shove, when you are having to make that decision, when you're tired, maybe when you're going through a rough patch, this is exactly when we need these truths just to be evident and uphold us in our lives. And this is what we do here in church. This is what we strive to do here. The motto that we have set for this year is be a plus. Be something that in your workplace, in your relationships, in your family, in your study, that adds something positive, that brings more faith, more positivity, more creativity, more excellence. Be a plus. And so I want to, at the end of the service, I invite you to stand up with me. We're going to have the blessing, but I want to pray for us, because I know that in this atmosphere here, it's good to hear the truth. It's good to hear the Bible verses. It's good to hear what we are setting out to do. But Jesus says the hearing part is one part. The part that makes a difference is the exercise part, the practicing part. And so, Jesus, I pray for all of us, no matter where we are right now, that we'll be able to put what we heard today from encouragement, from example, from inspiration into practice. And maybe some of us need to change passwords like Bryony, right? And be reminded about a Bible verse or a conviction. Maybe some of us need to become whistleblowers like Philip. Maybe some of us need to have more courage as we're leading the team. God, I pray you know everybody here. You know everybody here right now with their struggle and their connection. Some of us need a job. The next step, God, I pray for your provision for open doors. And just like it was for Philip when he was in transition, that somebody might introduce somebody, or they see just the right approach, or they talk to the right person, they click on the right link. God, I pray for that, not just in the next couple weeks, but months ahead. God, for all of us, I pray for courage and for strength. I bless you with the power of Jesus. I bless you with the power of the Holy Spirit. And I bless you with the love of the Father for this coming work week, in your relationships, in your finances, and your coming and going. In Jesus' name, amen.